All right, my friends, our guest today is the founder and director of the Thriving Well Institute. She's a psychotherapist, a speaker, a #1 best-selling author of Thriving as a Therapist, an international retreat leader with over 24 years of experience. We're going to be talking about that retreat business and experience here on Circles today. She's also a coach to therapists who want to learn how to build and scale their business, and admin of the Thriving Therapists Facebook group, which has amassed over 19,000 members around the globe. She's received the Meta Community Accelerator Award for 2022 and 2023 for having one of the highest engaging Facebook communities in all North America. She has presented and facilitated workshops and retreats globally and nationwide. She manages a private practice, a group practice in her coaching consulting business, and loves to help others learn how to thrive at work and at home. Now, here's one of her professions. She is a recovering perfectionist and recklessly brave. She's not afraid of most challenges. Friends on Circles, would you help me welcome our guest today? And that is Megan Gunnell. Megan, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah. How did I do on the last name? It's Gunnell or Gunnell?
It's
Gunnell.
Well, when I lived in Europe, everybody said Gunnell, and now that I'm back in the States, it is Gunnell like tunnel.
Gunnell like tunnel. I love it. Well, we're very glad that you're here. I wonder, for the benefit of our audience, we'll probably have several more people kind of pop in as we've already started our conversation, but I wonder if you could back everything up, kind of unpack you a little bit, your story, and kind of what led you on this journey that you're currently on. Would you mind sharing a little bit more with us?
Sure, happy to.
Cool.
So I started out as a music therapist. So I had a really big interest in using the creative arts in my work. I worked in hospitals for many years, developing programs for using music therapy at the bedside, with everything from labor and delivery all the way up through hospice. And it was a really fascinating part of my career. I worked with art therapist, I worked with guided imagery therapist and dance therapist and all different kinds of integrative medicine people. And it was really a cool time to be thinking about mind, body, and spirit work. And while I was doing that, I loved it, but I really felt like I could not take my work any further. And so I decided to get a master's degree and pursue becoming a psychotherapist. And when I did that, I started to really move into using my music therapy background and my psychotherapy background to kind of marry the two and start to build retreats. And that's kind of how the retreat work was born for me.
Wow. So I love what you said about music therapy. I spent a good portion of my career, Megan, in hospice and palliative care. So I actually worked with a lot of music therapists that came in, and there's something profound about music, isn't there? It touches the human soul, so to speak. Yes?
So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
There were many times I saw patients that were discharged from other services that responded to music therapy at the bedside. So it was really very sacred to be able to offer something when a lot of other services were discharged, from care. So it was really great to be able to be, part of things that are some of our most sacred moments, whether you're delivering a baby or moving through a dying process or recovering, from some, even an unconscious state. Like I used to be called to the ICU sometimes and work at the bedside with patients who were in a coma, and they would begin crying when they heard the harp at the bedside, and doctors would kind of gather around the room like, we don't understand how music is kind of penetrating this person's medical state. So it was always kind of a fascinating thing at the time to be able to bring music to the bedside, whether it was pediatric unit or inpatient psychiatry or rehab. It was really, really a special time in my life as a therapist. I really attribute to a lot of what I do today to that early, those early years in my career as a music therapist.
Yeah, how beautifully said as well. I've always had that as a grief and crisis counselor, spiritual worker at bedside with people who are transitioning, who are not, according to natural science medicine with our natural eyes, coherent. And yet you talk to them like they are. Right, Megan? I mean, I've had some of the
Mm-hmm.
most
Mm-hmm.
beautiful conversations with people who are supposedly end stage Alzheimer's, my father being one of them. And
Oh,
then they
wow.
make these moments and they give you indications that they just heard your prayer, they heard your hum of Amazing Grace, whatever it may be. They give you this indication of, yes, I'm still in here. And yes, I'm still listening to you. Yeah, that's amazing.
So true. So true. Yeah, it was really powerful work with people who had advanced neurological, degenerative disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's too. That was really a fascinating time in my career to be able to see people who couldn't, coherently speak, but they could sing through an hour of music therapy sessions. So that was always fascinating, to be part of that work for sure.
Yeah, beautifully. Just a curiosity, friends. Anybody in the house today? You're a therapist, MSW, light worker, spiritual worker. Just throw me a heart in the air if that's you. Just kind of get an idea of who our audience is. So it's okay if you're not in that line. I just wanted to make sure that I was giving honor where honor is due. Megan, did you always know you wanted to be a therapist? Is it something that you just kind of knew you were born with a little girl, or did it develop over a period of time?
I think I discovered music therapy because I didn't really want to do music performance, but I really wanted to do, something in the helping profession. But I also wasn't sure if I wanted to be a full blown PhD psychologist. So I found myself in my first year of my bachelor's degree taking pretty much the entire curriculum for the music therapy program without really knowing that it was such a degree. So I remember the day distinctly. This was 1993, when I was speaking with a counselor who was helping me select classes. And he said, "You're pretty much taking all of the requirements for this degree we have here called music therapy. Do you think you want to claim that as your degree?" And I was like, "What is that?" I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like it kind of was the perfect marriage for me because I was really interested in music and I was really interested in the helping profession, but I wasn't sure I wanted to do, really either or. And it was really a good blend. But then, like I said, I really did find myself at a point where I couldn't take my work any further. And
Mm.
I felt like I had a stopgap in my ability to serve my clients to the depth of where I really wanted to take them because I needed more education and training. And so after many years of working in the field and doing a lot of hospital work, my husband and I had lived abroad for a while and then we came back. And when I came back, I thought, I really think I need a master's degree with something that will allow me to be a psychotherapist and do talk therapy sessions. But I wasn't sure at that stage in my life if I could take on a full PhD. So I went for the MSW route, and I'm so glad I did because it was a really great ecological kind of perspective for me. And I felt like it really was a wonderful opportunity to kind of blend my interests and also then take my work to the next level, offer psychotherapy, build a private practice, and move into deeper, more transformational work like retreats.
Yeah. I want to get to the retreats because I know that's the main topic of our conversation today. I am curious about, you said one thing, and I just wanted to just kind of throw some kudos your way. When you talked about you had this certain experience, but then you felt like you were still short of the impact that you wanted to make. So you went ahead and grabbed the master's. I think that's brilliant because I think a lot of people in life, when they're trying to find their calling, their path, their et cetera, they lean into their passion only. And you can have great passion, but the society wants to see the name, the initials, the education as well. So it looks like you kind of teamed those two together, which kind of helped open doors for you in your career. How did I do with that? Did I get that right?
Well, it's a little bit different than that. Like I wasn't as concerned about the imprint of society and kind of the opinion of what other people thought if I had enough training or not. It was
Ah,
really born out of a lack of extensive training. And my bachelor's could only take me so far. And I often, to be honest, I found myself sitting at the bedside with, oncology patients who were facing a terminal diagnosis, and I was limited in my capacity to help them because I didn't have the extensive training that a graduate degree would provide me with as a clinician. And so I really found myself sometimes feeling a little bit inept. And I mean, I had a bachelor's, I had lots of good training, I had lots of great supervisors, I had, great internships in Chicago and Detroit. But I just found that I got to a point where I would, want to take my work further, and it just wasn't possible for me because I didn't have the tools in my toolbox to go that
Yeah.
far. So
Yeah.
I was really hungry to be able to support my patients and my clients, anywhere they wanted to go. But I felt like I didn't have the capacity to do that with the training and, experience and education that I had in my back pocket at that time. So
Yeah.
I felt really called to extend my education in that way. And had I not bookended my master's with babies, which I didn't really plan, but it worked out that way, then I probably would have gone on for a PhD because I do love education and I'm kind of always a curious learner. But I just felt like I couldn't do it at that stage of my life to go on and get a PhD after my master's degree. But that was plenty because, I've been able to run with my master's level education for quite some time. And everything I've been wanting to do, I've been able to accomplish because of that degree. So if anyone out there is listening and feels, inspired by hearing that story, I mean, it wasn't easy, I'll say that. I was accepted to the University of Michigan master's in social work program, and then I found out I was expecting. I was married and we wanted children, but just we were thinking we would have kids after my degree was done. And so that pushed back my start date. I had to defer for a year, and then I had to go from a fast track to getting it done in 16 months to getting it done in 3 years. And at the end of it, I gave the speech to my graduating class with another baby in my belly because I got pregnant with my daughter at the end of that degree, which was planned. So it was just a very difficult time to try to fit a master's degree in between these children and all the things we were trying to accomplish in our family. But I was really glad that I did it at that time in my life and career, because then I was able to really build my practice and build my retreat work and all the other things I've done because of that degree. So if anyone is listening and thinks, you're inspired to, go back and get more education, but you feel like it might be impossible, just know that I was there too. So I just want to give that little testimonial.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You make me think. My wife and I've got four kids. The youngest is now 17, will be 18 next month. But she was finishing her master's when we got pregnant with our first, right? So she kind of went through the same thing.
Wow.
She was going to go master's, doctorate, etc., and then started to have babies, and that deviated. She finished her master's. This is now on teaching and doing other things she loves to do. But I think the whole story and the whole purpose for me asking was you individually saying, I'm going to put as many tools as I can in my toolbox to get me
Mhm.
where I want to go in life. And I think that's one of the things that we could pick up even right now in the conversation. What tools do I need in my toolbox? And let me just go after them, and so that I can position myself the best as possible. Now, there's
Right.
twofold in you that I've learned in reading about you, and you and I talking prior to this conversation. Is number one, you leaned into not only just therapy, individual clients, but you leaned into helping therapists also grow. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit and then segue into retreats. Can you help us
Hmm.
understand that? What was
Sure.
that about? What was that pull to help therapists rather than just the one-on-one client anymore?
Yeah, so I did one-on-one client work for a very long time as a psychotherapist. I had a solo private practice where I would, mostly work with busy working women who had depression, anxiety, or were facing a life transition, adjustment to change, grief and loss, some of those kinds of issues. And I had a very, very full practice, and I really loved that solo practice so much, but it got to be too full. And I found myself seeing 35 clients a week, which is in our industry way too many. We're supposed to see 20 a week. That's considered a full caseload because we need the other 20 hours to do our prep for sessions, our notes, our research, and prepare and wrap up the session that we were just in. So I was over scheduling myself for a period of about 10 straight years because my caseload was just exploding. And so at that time, this was like 2019, 2020, I decided to, search some communities on Facebook for support for therapists. And I found some therapist Facebook groups that I started to chat in. And I just thought, I wonder how other people are doing this, because what I'm doing really isn't working anymore. And I still have a long wait list, and I don't know how to continue serving people in need without burning out. And as I was chatting in these other Facebook communities, I started realizing that people were saying underneath my posts and comments, you should start your own Facebook group. And so I was like, maybe I should. Maybe I should make one of my own. I thought maybe I should just make a little community on Facebook and see what happens. So in December of 2019, I opened what's now called the Thriving Therapist Facebook community. And in a few years' time, we went from 0 members to almost 19,000 followers, and
Wow.
it exploded because of a couple reasons. One, COVID hit, and many therapists like myself had to make fast pivots from doing in-person work to doing telehealth. And our field went from being somewhat isolating to extremely isolating. And I noticed that therapists during COVID were really, really hungry for community, and they were really hungry for guidance on how to make sure that they didn't burn out and that they could thrive. And I was teaching therapists in that community how to build a private practice like I did, but also then how to scale that practice so that they didn't have to rely exclusively on one-on-one therapy work for their income. And so I was teaching them how to build retreats and all those kinds of things, and like online courses and coaching and workshops and speaking gigs and all the other stuff that I had done in my career. And then as I was teaching that, the therapists were saying, oh my gosh, why don't you make a retreat for us? You're making these wonderful retreats for clients, like you're taking people to Costa Rica and we can see what you're doing. And we want. What I noticed was really hungry for community, but they were also deeply in need of restoration and nurturing. And so what we did was start to build the, retreats that I was doing that were client facing. I moved that to the Thriving Therapist platform and started offering therapist retreats in 2019. And after I did the first one, it sold out so fast that I was like getting hate mail from my audience because they were so angry that they couldn't be part of it, that it sold out too quickly. So I decided to make a summit, and I invited 150 people to come to Costa Rica instead of just 20. And so these things kept scaling and growing. And we did full-fledged conferences with continuing education credits and all different kinds of things for therapists. And then my clients on the other side were now yelling at me saying, wait, you forgot about us because now you're not hosting retreats for us. So during that time, I decided to build a group practice. And now I have a team of therapists that serve the clients who are on my wait list and who are in need of services. And now my team and I are building client-facing retreats again as well, because the demand is still there for that too. So
Yeah.
I guess my whole thing came about because I kept listening to the audience that's in front of me. And when you listen to the audience that's in front of you, you hear the call. And if someone's saying, why don't you do this for us? If you're an entrepreneur, you'll make it, right? You'll do it. So that's kind of how that evolved.
Yeah, hear the audience in front of you. I'm making a note of that. I think that's beautifully said. I think every day we get up, and if we just tune into the audience, I think a lot of us are still tuned into our own selves that we forget about the audience. And really, if we just listen there, we will find what is in need, and then we can just adjust and focus our attention and start putting our gift to work in that capacity. I love it. You and I talked about retreats. I've talked about, my wife and I have always talked about having a retreat in Costa Rica. Maybe we'll have to go on one of yours first of all, Megan, so we figure out how to do it. But
sure.
So I wrote this post on Instagram today because I knew you and I'd have this conversation. And here was my writing. It's no secret that the islands possess a mystical power, but does a trip away to an exotic destination help heal a grieving heart quicker than a stroll in your own backyard? Now, I have no clue where that came from, Megan, but that is my preamble to talking about how is it that you've experienced this magic that is happening in these places that you're holding these retreats. I'm curious now. Let's dive in deep. Go for it.
Okay.
What have you found?
Really good question. A lot of people do ask me, why do we go to such far away exotic places that are usually really hard to get to, to have retreat experiences? And it's something I ask myself a lot when I'm on a hot bus, like bumping along the jungle roads of Costa Rica that are like 3 hours into a drive that feels like really uncomfortable. Sometimes I ask, like, okay, why does the journey have to be so long and hard? But it's because you cannot replicate the full immersion of the mind, body, soul awakening that happens in those really amazing, remote, pristine locations that are somewhat untouched by society. You can't replicate that at like a Hyatt in Ohio. I'm sorry, you just can't. So you can have really profound experiences anywhere in the world, including in your own backyard. That's true. But you cannot replicate what we're trying to create when it comes to transformative retreats if you don't go to a place where you're a little bit off the grid, or you're truly surrounded by, the mystical and the wondrous and the awe-inspiring nature. There's just something really wonderful about having all of the headspace when you go to a place where you're not walled in by cement or other walls or houses or structures. There's something magical that happens that's very expansive when you allow yourself to travel to a place that is kind of hard to get to. It doesn't necessarily have to be difficult to get to a place like this, but sometimes when you do make that effort, you notice that by being more remote, you get the immersion experience in your cellular level a lot differently than if you were just, traveling to a resort, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I totally agree. My oldest daughter went to, I can't remember what island in Hawaii, her and her girlfriend, and they rented this Airbnb, a glass house round in the middle of the forest. And she said, Dad, it was the most remarkable. You drove up this dirt road, you had to park your car at the gate, walk down, and then you walked into this place. It was circular. The bed laid in the middle, circular. You looked up through glass, saw the stars, and she said the frogs and the sounds, and then she said I was just able to escape. And I
Hmm.
think I hear you say that, Megan. We're so prone to see the person next to us, be in the store with the people, be in our own neighborhood. It's familiarity, and I
Hmm.
need to pull myself out of that familiarity and get into those places that are known for healing. I think Costa Rica, those exotic places have a persona of this mystical healing, right? I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
from my research, they have.
For
So
sure. Yeah, there's something magical about the blue zone locations, but in addition to that, there's just something really powerful about stripping yourself away from all the
yes,
things that are part of your routine, which sort of maybe kind of numb us to, becoming fully aware of who we are and who we want to be. And what I try to do is lift people right up out of their dishwashers, you know what I mean? Like take them
yeah,
away from their everyday tasks. Like we're not shopping at your regular grocery store. We're not doing dishes. We're not walking our dogs. Like we are lifting out of our lives so that we can reconnect to lost and hidden parts of ourselves. And,
yes,
when we do that and we move back to a place that invites us to awaken our bodies and awaken our souls, there is something so magical and so powerful that happens that no matter what the agenda is for the retreat, the very act of arriving is sometimes half of what someone's experience is.
yeah, yeah. I love it. So in your, I want to get on. I don't know anybody else. I'm in that truck that you just talked about, or that bus, Megan. I'm clumping down that road. I
Yeah,
could feel the bumps, and I'm in the back of the bus. My
it's
butt's
hot,
coming up
it's
off the
sweaty.
seat. It's hot, it's sweaty,
Yep.
and I can hear my kids. Are we there yet? are we
Yes,
are we
totally,
are we
totally.
there yet? So
Yes.
yeah, I love it. I love it. So in your experience, what have you found? Because lots of people try to do retreats. I've been to some that are phenomenal. I've been to some that flop. They're a flop.
Mhm.
You don't even have the experience on the bus. what have you found that makes a good retreat a good retreat? Have you found a formula that works?
I have. So, first of all, you have to start by setting the intention. And if a retreat facilitator doesn't have a clear intention about what their guests can expect to experience out of this retreat, then that's your red flag number one. If your retreat facilitator doesn't seem to have a clear agenda or doesn't understand the power that they're holding in terms of space and just the fact that people trust me and they'll travel sometimes internationally for the first time in their lives, to my retreats. I've had multiple first time international travelers coming to my retreats, and it's a real sacred honor to hold that space because it's like, gosh, you haven't been able to or didn't want to venture out that far before, but now you're feeling called to do that. You must have read something in my retreat description that gave you the confidence or trust to say, I feel like this is a yes for me. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is making sure that the space is really safe and that there's a very well defined container while you're hosting the retreat. So by that I mean all the many years of experience I have being a therapist come into play when I welcome people to a retreat space because I create a very well defined safe container, and it's very different from a vacation. It's not an all inclusive resort, it's not a vacation. These are held at beautiful destinations and they are luxurious in lots of ways, but they are not meant to be, a party atmosphere in terms of like, lots of substance use or drinking or alcohol, whatever. We don't have any of that in our wellness retreats. So when I'm hosting a wellness retreat in Costa Rica, it's a totally alcohol-free experience because I also want people to really get in touch with what they're feeling and what's coming up for them while they're there. And the third thing I'll say about what makes a great retreat is the agenda. What I find that most people do is they don't understand the art and science of blending content with downtime. And what I hear people say over and over again when they leave my retreats is, oh my gosh, this was so perfectly designed. I had just enough time to be inspired and to like think and journal and reflect. And then I had just enough time to explore and do something adventurous or have an excursion or get a massage or just nap. Like I had plenty of time to do both. And I left here feeling empowered and inspired, but also restored. And so that to me is like really part of the perfect kind of recipe for what makes a good retreat a great one.
Yeah. How beautiful. So you probably feel like you've gone on vacation, but you're not there to vacation. The purpose of you going is to heal. Yes. So
Hmm.
what most of the people, and help us understand, most of the people that attend the retreats, they're going through the grieving process. Yes.
No.
No.
So a lot of people who attend retreats are not necessarily there because of a therapeutic reason. So they are
Ah.
attending because they're looking for a way to get reconnected to who they are and who they want to be. And so that's usually what my retreats answer for people is kind of a question of like, where am I now and where do I want to be? Or who am I now and who can I be? And so, what I like to do is open up a lot of opportunities through different retreat content offerings, whether it's teaching different kinds of meditation or having people answer journal prompts or sharing in a process circle questions that are very thought provoking about, where are you now in your life and what you've set up and what you've built? And is this truly your highest potential? And if it isn't, what's in the way? And so at retreats, we usually find lots of opportunities to answer that and really dive into the blocks and resistance that keep us from living the life that we're really wanting to live.
Yeah. What I'm fascinated with is, I've been on the planet for a little a little while, but I've watched in my lifetime, Megan, the societal shift, maybe it's a human shift of an awareness that I'm more. and that I'm more than what I experience. I've often told my clients, this is not happening to you. This is happening for you.
Mm.
So whatever
Mhm.
this for may be, it's a divorce, it's a death, it's a loss, it's a whatever it may be, instead of looking at it as a failure, a catastrophic, it's life going, stop just a second. Let's get you away to something like this retreat so you can just dump out everything that's happened to you so you can find out who you are now and discover who you can be and then
Right.
return with a new mission and a new purpose. Yeah? New fire in your belly, so to
Exactly.
speak. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
I
exactly
love
it.
that. I
But
love that.
what one of the problems with that is when people return to their dishwasher, I mean, I just use that as a little metaphor
Yeah,
for
come
our
on, say
busy kind
that.
of
I
everyday
got
life.
you.
You
Come
know,
on.
when we return to that, I think it can be challenging because when we change, and this is true for anyone going through healing and growth and therapy and whatever you're working through, it creates a ripple effect around you, and others in your circle will feel that. And some may love it and some may not. And so, what we do after retreats is usually really also help people focus on aftercare. And many retreats don't even think about aftercare, but aftercare is as important as the pre work. And there is pre work to attend my retreats too. I invite people to think about how they're caring for their bodies and souls and minds before we enter retreat space so that they feel really ready, to go into it and go deep. But
Yeah.
there's something really important about the after work because, a lot of times people will come back and say, I feel like I'm a totally different person, but my family is used to, me kind of showing up in this other role. And so now how do I integrate this? How do I move through this? How do I, move through this transition with my loved ones too? So, and they weren't there for that. So that's always kind of a challenge.
Yeah, I love it. I love the word aftercare. I want to get right back to that. Rachel in the chat said, yes, I always say that I was thrown into the universe and I have the power to take over my thrownness. I will not be a victim of circumstance.
Mm,
Well said, Rachel. I will not
mhm.
be a victim of circumstance. Aftercare of a retreat. Come on, Megan. I mean, I have never heard. I've been on the planet for a while. I've been to the retreats, but I'm telling you, I've never met anybody who has a plan after you get back because the reality is those dishes are going to still be there because your kids ain't going to do them. So you're going to
Yeah,
have to do them when you get back anyway. So you're going to not only help me get away from what's broken my heart and caused me no longer to thrive, you're going to help me find myself again. You're going to reignite my passion for living and now you're going to help me how to implement it when I get back and face the mundane. Yeah. Oh my God.
yeah, yeah.
Where do I sign up, kid? Where do I sign up? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, thank God for you and the work you're doing now. I also understand that you run retreats for therapists too, right? You're not just the end person, but you run them for therapists as well. How did you begin doing those? And maybe your thoughts on why?
Yeah, so therapists again really needed that sense of community and restoration. And when they heard about how I was teaching other therapists to build retreats for their clients, they were saying to me, why not build one for us? And so that was a really easy pivot to be able to transition kind of what I knew about retreat facilitation from client facing retreats to B2B, like business to business or therapist to therapist kind of retreats. Now, I will be honest with you and all those who are in the room here. It was very challenging for me as a longtime therapist hosting client facing retreats to pivot to hosting retreats for therapists. I was nervous that I would be in front of like a jury of my peers and that the therapists who were attending my first Costa Rica retreat would I don't know, judge me or, I don't know, maybe evaluate how I was hosting and say they thought I could have done it differently or something. But then as I got into it a little bit, I realized that's how they're feeling here. I was probably picking up on the energy that they were also feeling, that they were worried, that they were sitting there in the circle of the retreat maybe they were going to be judged. Maybe they were worried about being vulnerable. And so I talked about that as like a metaphor for what we were all doing there. And then I decided, and I told them I was going to do that I wasn't going to hold back and that I was going to host this therapist retreat just like I hosted client facing retreats. And it was really, really powerful and a very different experience because I had a whole room full of therapists there that were used to facilitating groups themselves, and also they were so highly skilled in listening. So I was like, wow, it's making my job very easy because when anyone was sharing, all the therapists were listening. There was no crosstalk or monopolizing or anything that you had to manage as a therapist who runs groups, because sometimes you have to do that. People are not always they don't go to school to learn how to listen like we do. So it's a very different kind of experience to host therapists than it is to host clients. But I love doing both. They're different.
I love it. Friends in the house, I don't know if you heard what Megan just dropped, but as a psychotherapist, our Megan here on Circles is talking about wondering if she was enough in front of her own peers. And I think the authenticity that it takes for you to say that, I don't know about the rest of you in the house, but for me, that makes me the happiest person in the world, Megan, because I'm thinking I'm the only one that feels that way when I get into a group. I'm great with one-on-one clients, but let me go to the coaching circle now. And then I have a couple of coaching circles that I'm a part of, and you get to sign up for the hot seat. And on your entrance into the room, if you decide to be in the hot seat, guess what? You're in it. And you can either feel empowered or you can feel deficient. It's really a great experience. And I think what I heard you say is what you found works, because what you're doing is authentically you, just in these different forms, one for facing clients, one for therapists, etc. We did have a comment in the chat. Rachel was asking, are there therapist to therapist retreats? And if so, there a way we could perhaps connect? That's exactly what you do, Megan. Yes?
Yes, for sure.
Yes,
And I'm
yes.
sorry, I can't toggle. For some reason, it won't let me open up the chat thread. So please feel free to ask any questions, Jeff, that you notice in there, because I can't touch it. It won't open for me right now. So I don't know why. Maybe I don't know. But yes, Rachel, for sure, you can find me on the Thriving Therapists Facebook group, or you can go to thrivingwellinstitute.com. And under the thrivingwellinstitute.com, there's a retreat tab. And that's where I have all my information about hosting retreats, big and small, for therapists. I do have one coming up on the Oregon coast next April 2024. So that's going to be an amazing retreat, all about our souls and synchronicity is what we call that one. So if you wanted to join us for that, we still have space. I'll be traveling to Europe to host the Thrive Retreat Tuscany for therapists in Italy this fall. So I'm looking forward to that. That one's already sold out, but I do try to do 2 a year for therapists. So you're welcome to join us and take a look at the Thriving Therapist Facebook group for more information.
I love it. I just put thrivingwellinstitute.com in the chat for you, Megan, as well. So I'm so sorry you're having difficulties on your end. I'll be sure and mention that to our development team and see if we can't get that resolved. But Rachel, do check out the chat, because I've dropped that. I've dropped also the Facebook group in the chat, friends, so be sure and check out those. So let's shift gears a half a second. Friends, if you do have some questions and comments, I want you to get ready to ask. But Megan, you recently became a #1 best-selling author for your book, Thriving as a Therapist. Can you tell us a little bit more about that book?
Yes. So I won an award from Meta for being one of 33 of the most highly engaged Facebook groups in all of North America. And with that award came a grant, and they asked me to use the funding for a sustainability project for my Facebook community. And everyone who won the grant, there were 33 of us, had different really, really cool groups, and they had different projects. And I've always wanted to write a book. And I thought, gosh, I've been hosting the Thriving Therapist community for a long time. I've been answering a lot of questions in there. I have a membership community and courses and coaching and all different things that I offer to therapists. And I thought maybe I should just put this into a book and create a resource that would be really easy for therapists to get all their questions answered on how to build and scale their business. So that's exactly what I did. And I was able to hire a publisher and an editor and a book coach, and I got the job done in a really short amount of time. And overnight, we became a #1 international bestseller on Amazon in 9 out of 10 categories, which is apparently unheard of because my publisher was like losing her mind over the stats. So we were really, really excited about it. And I think the book really fills a gap for therapists because it teaches them all the things they need to know about building and scaling their business.
Absolutely love it. What a wealth of knowledge you are. I think so many people I've had conversations with throughout my life, Megan, either formally like this or informally around a cup of coffee, some people find that thing in them to thrive and turn it
Mm-hmm.
into something marvelous while other people hide. I think
Yeah.
maybe for a moment or two, I'd love to draw upon your psychotherapist background, your lived experience background. What, in your professional opinion, maybe even personal, do you feel people hide rather than thrive? Would you mind touching on that just a little bit
Mm.
for us?
Sure. And I also do want to make mention before we end our conversation today that we have a retreat in Costa Rica for clients that are interested in coming. Anybody can come to that, and you don't have to be a therapist to attend that one. So the Thrive Advantage group is where that Costa Rica, thriveadvantagegroup.com is where the Costa Rica retreat is listed. So if anybody is listening and they're not a therapist, you're more than welcome to join us in Costa Rica in January because I'll be down there hosting a retreat. So, okay, to
Nice.
answer your question, yes, resiliency is one of my most passionate topics. I'm really interested in studying resiliency, and it would have been the topic of a PhD had I decided to pursue that. I also am fascinated with what makes people thrive and what makes some people hide, like you said. Um, I don't have the magic answer for that. What I do know to be true is that people who thrive tend to be comfortable being uncomfortable. They've learned how to set things that are challenging next to them and still drive the bus instead of just allowing the discomfort to drive the bus.
Hmm.
So they get comfortable being uncomfortable by just setting the difficult challenge or whatever it might be right next to them and just sit with it and just continue to move their wheel forward, even though they're unsure, even though they still feel afraid, even though they might be uncomfortable. So I hope that resonates. I hope that makes sense. It's a topic I used to talk a lot about in my private practice. And I would often use the bus analogy of just like, the difference in surviving versus thriving is when we thrive, we're sort of like befriending our discomfort in a way where it's less threatening, where we can still be vulnerable and we can be afraid and we can still be courageous and move forward. And Brene Brown says it beautifully in being brave and afraid at the same time.
Yeah, so well said. I just happened to pick up your website, yourname.com, ready to
Oh, yeah.
thrive. Yeah, yeah. What a
Mhm.
beautiful topic, ready to thrive. Anybody in the room ready to thrive? Come on, somebody. Anybody here? Throw me a heart in the air like you just don't care anymore. Come on, somebody. We've got to get past this. I think, I've witnessed and experienced in my work as well. I love it. Alisa has got wow with all kinds of clapping hands in the air. So I
Yay.
appreciate that. Yay, yay. We're touching hearts. We're changing lives. We're giving
Elise is from
hope.
Detroit. I understand too. I saw when I could get in the chat, I saw we had the same location. So that's great. I'm right down the street.
I absolutely love it. Yeah, I think this will to live, this will to thrive. I know in my work in hospice, I witnessed firsthand. It didn't matter of age. It didn't matter of really diagnosis almost, Megan. It mattered of I'm not leaving the planet until.
Yeah.
right? I remember
Yeah.
a lady, she was up in her well 90s. She was waiting for her great granddaughter to be born,
Mm.
and she had
Mm.
lived years beyond the doctor's expectations. And when I got a chance to talk with her, I asked her, why, love, are you still here? And she says, I'm holding my great granddaughter when she's born. And she was still not born yet. And I thought,
Oh,
you got to be kidding me. And Megan, I watched her. She held that baby, kissed that baby, and put her head back on the pillow. I wasn't there visibly to watch it, but the family said after that event happened, she died peacefully. She left the planet. She has
oh
this
my
insatiable
gosh.
will. My gosh, I don't know.
Wow.
It gives me like
Wow.
goosebumps on my arms, right, to think about that
That's
kind of stuff. So yeah,
miraculous.
yeah, yeah.
Gosh.
I absolutely. But that is the work that you are doing as well in the communities that you're creating, in the retreats that you're creating. There's something magical about that. So talk to us one more time about the Costa Rica, because I want to make sure everybody has that. That's open to everybody. You don't have to be a
Yeah,
therapist to join that one. And where
that's
are
right.
we finding information about that one? Is it at your
At
Thriving Well Institute?
no, so that's for therapists, but my group practice is hosting the Costa Rica retreat in January for anyone to attend. You don't have to be a therapist, and you can find that at the group practice website, which is Thrive Advantage Group. So that's our group practice. You can read more about the group practice in the state of Michigan. We are taking new referrals. If anyone is in Michigan and would like to find a great therapist that provides telehealth, you can certainly reach out to us. But if you
Good.
wanted to attend our retreat in January, just go to the groups and retreats tab and you can register by putting down a deposit and saving your space. I have one double room left as of tonight and a couple spots in my triple room. So it's only open to women. So unfortunately, Jeff, you wouldn't be able to attend that one, but I would love to see you at a future retreat.
Oh no! Can I put a wig on or something and call it change my name? Come on, Megan, I'll go. I'll do whatever you need me to do. So
Send
come
your wife,
on.
send your wife.
You said my wife. Well, she would love you for that. Yeah, she would love me for that as well. Listen, I'm dropping that in the chat right now. Yes, thriveadvantagegroup.com. So somebody here, you're listening in, you'd like to take advantage of that, you can find that information, thriveadvantagegroup.com. Just want to make sure I got all my links for you, Megan, correct. Yep, psychotherapy to help you thrive. There's your mission
Yes.
again. Megan, tell us something funny about you. Tell us a story that's going to make us laugh, something in your history you look back and you said, oh my God, but now it's formidable. It's shapeable. It's helped impact your life. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I know I went off
I've
script,
got it.
didn't I?
You did. And now I had to think for a minute. Do I really want to share this or not? But I think I will. So this is a really good one. You guys will laugh at this. And it did shape my life in a really great way. So my husband and I lived in Germany for a couple of years when we were first married. And for my birthday, when we were over there, he decided to get me a gift certificate to the Turkish spa and Turkish bathhouse. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've always heard about the Turkish bathhouse. I was so excited to go. I packed my USA American swimsuit and I packed my towel and I knew they had pools there and saunas. And I was like, I'm going to get a massage and then I'm going to go in the pool. I'm going to have a wonderful day. And I just can't wait to celebrate my birthday over here because I was kind of alone and, like we didn't know a lot of people yet. And it was a very new experience for us. And I get in there and I got the best massage of my life. It was wonderful. And my German was pretty rusty. So the guy said, oh, did you want to swim today? And I was like, yes. And I could tell he was asking me that in German. And he said, well, follow me and I'm going to take you there. And so he told me to follow him. And I went to the desk. He gave me the key to a locker and a towel, a different kind of towel. And I had like this long kind of like a sheet towel. And I was like, that's kind of weird because I thought I was supposed to have like a beach towel, So I walk into the room where he told me to go change. And all of a sudden, all I heard was men's voices. And I was like, oh my God,
Oh
I just
no.
walked into the men's changing room. And I peeked over the top of my changing room and I saw not only a room full of naked men, but I also saw naked women because in Germany, everything is pretty much co-ed naked. And they think nothing of
Oh.
it. And so
Oh
here
my
I
gosh.
am, little Miss, Michigan, like, looking over the top of this. This is just so funny. And looking over the top, thinking, oh my God, I got to wait until everyone clears out of here and then I'm going to book it for the door. But what I realized was, no, you're in the place to take your suit off and go out there naked and like start swimming with all these people. And so, what did I do? I just like went in Rome, do as the Romans do. So I just like wiggled off my USA swimsuit and put my weird sheet around me. And then I just like walked out and like went in and went swimming with, all these people. And it was one of the most embarrassing but most liberating moments of my life. And what I noticed instantly was nobody cared. And it just was a
Yes.
metaphor for me. Like, nobody cares. When you think you're so worried that like everyone's going to judge you or that what you're doing isn't good enough or whatever it might be, that's not true. It's actually true that nobody is looking. No one cares if you're standing there naked in Germany in a Turkish bathhouse swimming on your birthday. No one cares because they're enjoying their swim too. So it was just this awesome, liberating moment that stayed with me for a long time.
Oh, I am so glad I listened to my heart when it said, ask her this question. I'm so glad I listened and said, I'm going to do that because I had an argument with myself, but I'm
I'm
so
glad you
glad
did
that I
too.
won.
Oh
I'm
my
so
God,
glad.
that's great.
What a beautiful story. Yeah, on your birthday in your birthday suit, right?
That's
Yeah, right.
exactly right. Oh my gosh, that could be my TED talk. I might just try to pitch that.
Come on, you pitch it. I'll be an audience member. I'll come and see that one with you. I appreciate that. You are such
Oh
a
God.
joy. Everybody in the house, have you enjoyed our conversation with Megan today? I know I have. Your spirit, your light is infectious. Recap for us. We're just about out of time. Friends, anybody in the house, you have a comment, you have a question, I don't want to ignore you. We've only got a couple of minutes left. I want to give Megan kind of an opportunity to kind of recap us about retreats, why they're so special, and to give that invite one more time. But anybody in the house, if you have a comment, a question for our guest, just raise your hand for me if you would. Allow me to see you, and then I'll give you a call. Nope, nope. Okay, going once. We're all settled in. We're all just listening. We're all absorbing. We're all taking in the birthday and the birthday suit story. I love it. I love it, my friend. Take us back through, just summarize. There's been so much said. Megan, you're doing a wonderful work in the world. Why is it so special about retreats? Why do you think everybody should get there? And then one more time about how they can find you, and we'll close our conversation.
Well, I think that it's just so important that we make space for sacred moments in our lives, whether that's something you do with intentionality on your own in your own corner of the world, or if it's something that you seek out doing with other people or to be guided or facilitated through an experience that is really transformative. But for me, my soul lives in retreat work. I have been drawn to it forever. And I find it to be the most powerful way for people to really reconnect with, their sense of identity and who they are and where they're going. So you're welcome to join me in January on retreat in Costa Rica. You can find out more about that offer at the thriveadvantagegroup.com. Or if it's easier, you can just go to my basic name page, which is megangunnell.com, to find out about all the things I'm doing with all three companies that I run.
I love it, friends. You heard it here right on Circles Masterclass. My name is Jeff. I've been your host, and Megan Gunnell has been our guest, and we very much appreciate you for your patience and with us and your time and your investment in us. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate
Oh,
you very
thank you.
much. Yeah.
Thanks so
So
much for
welcome.
having me.
All right, friends, I'll tell you what I would do if I were you, if you hold down on Megan's icon, you can follow her. If she stays on the app, comes back on the app, you get a chance to get notified that she's on holding a meeting, and then you could join. Also, if you've enjoyed today, you can follow me if you don't already. Whenever I host a meeting, you'll get a notification. Please reach out to Megan. Her information is on the website. Without further ado, that's all we have for you today. Thank you for joining us. Megan, we wish you the very best and hope to see you in Costa Rica.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It was my pleasure being here.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.